This video is brought to you by
What's up, kings and queens? It's your girl, Charlotte Moore. As always, we give thanks for another day, you dig? So as the CEO and founder of Motivational More, we take pride in working with incredible creative entrepreneurs. And today, we are shooting a campaign for cool green clothing founded by the one and only AC Green. So the vibrational energy of this line is all about street vibes, a growth mindset, hustle. So today, we are highlighting this, guys, the Baltimore Cool Green Snapback. How cute is this? Look at this. So we're going to have so much fun on the shoot. And I'm telling you, follow cool green clothing. It's so important for us to support our entrepreneurs. There's so much talent in Baltimore. And as a creative entrepreneur myself, I know how hard it is. And I love to see just people going out there and going for their dreams. So let's get it. Bless up.
What's up, fam? It's your girl, Mrs. Tony 2 times. And I'm back with another video. In this episode of the Baltimore Way, I'll be telling the tragic story of Alicia Avery and her little girl, Darielle, who were found slain in their extended stay apartment in Baltimore County in 2011. Before we get into this video, welcome if you're new here to our channel. Please feel free to subscribe. Click that notification bell to get notified every time we upload. If you're rocking with the content, smash that like button. Share this video with everyone you know. Make sure you watch until the end to hear the full story. All right, let's jump right into it. Alicia Avery was born in Baltimore, Maryland on August 3rd, 1985. As a small child, Alicia attended school in Baltimore City. Later, she graduated from Woodlawn High School in Baltimore County. She grew up attending church at St. Abraham Baptist Church and sang in the youth choir. Alicia's favorite game to play was Twister. She was a huge fan of Tweety Bird. Alicia had a winning smile that was gentle enough to melt the hearts of those around her without speaking a word. Alicia's gentleness carried through as she became a mother. Although the relationships with her children's father may have fizzled, she moved on and established a co-parenting relationship. In 2011, Alicia was dating a man named Brian Eggleston Jr. The couple, along with Alicia's daughter, Darielle, was staying with a friend in East Baltimore, a few blocks north of Patterson Park. But in March 2011, Alicia and her daughter were relocated to an extended stay apartment in Baltimore County by Baltimore City Police. Alicia was a witness in an investigation of an homicide that took place in the city that month and had been cooperating with police. The extended stay was a temporary placement until she could transition safely to a permanent home. Alicia's daughter, Darielle, turned 4 years old just a couple months after the move. Darielle was described by her father, Daryl, as smart and amazing. She was in Head Start and would have attended kindergarten in another year. Darielle's father would pick her up every weekend and on some weekdays. He lived not too far from the extended stay where Alicia was staying. Darielle spent Father's Day with her dad and returned back to her mother after that weekend. Alicia had also received news that she and her daughter were about to be moved to their permanent location. Suspiciously, just days before Alicia was supposed to make that move, Baltimore City Police and her family had stopped hearing from her. No one had made contact with her or her little girl in several days. Alicia and her daughter were reported missing. On Monday afternoon, June 27, 2011, around 4 p.m., City Police went to the Welcome Inn extended stay to check on Alicia and Darielle. As they entered the room, they discovered the lifeless bodies of 25-year-old Alicia and her 4-year-old daughter, Darielle. The tragic findings devastated the families of Alicia and Darielle. They couldn't understand how this could have happened when they were supposed to be protected. The cause of their passing was not immediately released. Despite the element that Alicia was in witness protection, Baltimore County Police said they had no motive or suspect in the case. County police weren't aware that Alicia was staying at the location in witness protection. Alicia and Darielle's family demanded justice for their loved ones. Their loss had a significant impact on their family. They had a hard time understanding how that could have happened to Alicia and Darielle. The following morning, on Tuesday, June 28th, investigators were seen at the extended stay on the 8700 block of Lock Bend Drive in Parkville, going in and out of the building. Police forensic vans were seen parked in an alley behind the extended stay. Investigators photographed and examined a window on the first floor. The medical examiner ruled both slayings a homicide. Alicia and her daughter were both shot. The autopsy also revealed that Alicia was pregnant. One of her family members told the Baltimore Sun that Alicia was pregnant with twins. Family said she was about 3 months pregnant at the time of her slaying. As the investigation continued, city police said the case that Alicia was cooperating with was not one that was going to trial anytime soon. After 12 to 15 hours of the bodies being discovered, police ruled out the possibility that Alicia and her daughter's slayings were connected to the city murder case. Baltimore County Police concluded that the slayings were related to a domestic disturbance. They began investigating the case as a domestic homicide. According to reports, Alicia and Brian had gotten engaged, but the relationship could be very tumultuous at times. The couple had frequent arguments, and some would even turn physical. According to Alicia's friend, Brian had a drinking problem, and Alicia was sick and tired of it. Alicia had told her friend a day before the slaying that she was going to break up with Brian before she moved into her permanent place. Alicia wanted out, and her friend believed that sent Brian over the edge. Her friend also told investigators that Brian had access to a firearm. With the evidence and witness testimony, officers had enough to put a warrant out for Brian's arrest. During a press conference on June 29, 2011, just 2 days after Alicia and Darielle were found, Baltimore County Police revealed that Alicia's boyfriend, 28-year-old Brian Eggleston Jr., was charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. Baltimore County Police did not have to go far to arrest their suspect. Brian had been arrested in Baltimore City on unrelated charges the same day Alicia and her daughter were found by police in the apartment. He was held at Baltimore City Central Bookings as those charges were processed. After that, he was transported to Baltimore County Detention Center, where he was held without bail. In November 2012, Brian Eggleston ended up pleading guilty to 2 counts of murder in the slayings of Alicia and her daughter, Darielle. Prosecutors described how Alicia and Brian's relationship had turned sour and her desire to end it. Prosecutors said just days before Alicia was supposed to move, Brian and Alicia got into a fight over the phone while she was staying at a friend's place. Prosecutors said cell phone records showed that Alicia had returned to their apartment at the extended stay after repeated calls from Brian's phone. Then, the following day, Brian got a new cell phone number and stopped calling Alicia's number. The state recommended 2 consecutive life sentences. A few months later, in February 2013, a judge sentenced Brian to 2 consecutive life sentences. Wow fam, what a heartbreaking story. This video was requested. My thoughts and prayers are with the family as they continue to remember the lives of their beloved Alicia and Darielle. It's extremely sad that a mother and daughter had to lose their lives in cold blood. Alicia and Darielle didn't deserve for their lives to be taken in such a horrific way. I hope that the families were able to get closure to this tragic situation. There's no amount of time that Brian will spend behind bars that will bring back Alicia, sweet Darielle, or her unborn. It's difficult to understand why it's so hard for a person to let go of someone. Why take their lives? The whole "if I can't have you, no one will" never makes sense. You still don't have them after you take their life. So what's the sense in committing such a heinous act? The logic shows that anger causes you not to think clearly. It's just emotions gone haywire. And if anger goes unchecked, the end results can be devastating. Again, my thoughts and prayers are with Alicia and Darielle's family. Fam, tell me your thoughts on this story in the comments below. Alright fam, that's it for this episode of the Baltimore Way. Thank you all so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. This is your girl, Mrs. Tony 2 times, and I'm out.
On YouTube, fam. This your boy Tony 2 times, and we back with another episode of the Baltimore Way, man. Before I start, y'all know what I need y'all to do. Be sure to tap that like button. Definitely watch this video to the end to hear the full story and all the details in the case. Keep up with me, because I'm going to use a lot of nicknames and stuff like that. But y'all ain't slow. I know y'all can catch on. If you're new to the fam, be sure to subscribe. Hit that notification bell for future uploads. Let's get right into the story. Clubs, bars, or lounges. They are cool, depending on the environment and what's going on in the location. Some people go out with their peoples, have a few drinks, leave before closing, and call it the night. Because they know as the drinks keep flowing and more people come in, it could quickly go from laid back to a hostile environment. It's sad to say, but pride and ego mixed with alcohol is a recipe for disaster. Even if a person wouldn't normally do something wild, that liquid courage can change the game. And depending if it's a special occasion like New Year's Eve, where more than likely everybody is lit and out their body off the drinks, pills, whatever their substance of choice is, a wrong look, stepping on somebody's shoes, or a simple argument or disagreement can turn fatal. And on this episode of the Baltimore Way, we will be discussing the case of a situation that turned fatal on New Year's Eve 2016 in the East Baltimore bar. According to sources, on the day of December 30th, 2016, in the late night hours of that evening, a man we will call Mr. Blue met his older brother, 39-year-old Keith Patterson, at a bar lounge called Robbie's Nest, located on 2250 East North Avenue. The brothers allegedly entered the bar, had a seat, and the young lady we will call Miss K, who was an associate of Keith, was also hanging with the brothers that night. As the night went on, more people would come in to enjoy New Year's Eve, including 31-year-old Jordan Moody, and an off-duty lieutenant who worked at the Maryland Division of Corrections named Richard. But as everyone was partying, allegedly a fight would break out between a man named B involving Keith and his brother. B was later dragged out the bar. Keith and his brother, Blue, returned back and joined Miss K. As the evening progressed, Keith got up from his seat, leaving Miss K sitting alone. When according to sources, Jordan would join her and sit in Keith's chair. The two would start talking, as Jordan was trying to see what was up with Miss K. Keith doubled back and told him that was his seat. This is where things get crazy. Allegedly, the men would go and start arguing back and forth about the seat and Jordan trying to holler at Miss K. The situation would try to be calmed down by people inside, including a bartender. Both men left the bar, Keith and his brother through the front door and Jordan through the side door. But once outside, allegedly, Jordan flashed a blick. Keith and his brother started walking up North Avenue, away from the bar. When according to sources, shots went off. A man running behind the brothers could be seen by witnesses opening fire. As Blue kept running, Keith fell, and the trigger man ran up and stood over him, still shooting. Then let off more shots at the bar to the point bullets went through the window, almost hitting people in the spot. The man would stop shooting when someone shouted out, "Whoa, whoa, it's me." Then the trigger man would take off on foot. As the off-duty lieutenant, the bartenders, and others called BPD, they arrived to the scene. They found 12 9mm shell casings, also a man lying in the street unresponsive, suffering from multiple wounds. The victim was later identified as Keith Patterson, who unfortunately would not survive. As police talked to witnesses, most of them stated the events of that night, which was a few different altercations, but the main one being about a seat, and no one seemed to know the man's name who was arguing with Keith. A worker who was working at the carryout window that night showed BPD the surveillance footage that showed the two men arguing, a young lady sitting down, then everybody walking outside. Not long after, a man could be seen creeping back with a blick in his hand before shots were fired. Police talked to more people, but no one seemed to know who the shooter was. Then about 2 weeks later, a tip came in and a picture of a man that matched the description of the shooter that was sent to BPD. They contacted Miss K, the young lady who was with Keith that night. She allegedly told police she only knew the man as Early, but the case would go cold with no more information. A year and some change would go by before a Crime Stoppers tip would come in, identifying the man in the picture as Jordan Moody, who some called by his middle name, Earl. That's when police connected the name Miss K told them, Early. Jordan was soon picked up and charged with murder, 2 counts of attempts, handgun violations, unlawful possession of firearms, and other charges. Before the case made it to trial, BPD received notification that Miss K, one of their witnesses, had allegedly stabbed the man because everyone was approaching her, saying it was her fault Keith was hit. And some pointed out Jordan didn't stop shooting until she said, "Whoa, it's me," before he ran off. As witnesses were being rounded up for the court date, BPD got the identity of Keith's brother, Mr. Blue, who told them he didn't even know his brother was hit until he ran back down the street and saw him laying there. As the testimonies were getting off for trial, a recorded jail call was sent to prosecutors, with Jordan referring to himself as Earl and stating to who he was talking to, "I'm in this situation because I tried somebody's girl." As trial started, prosecutors brought in Miss K, Blue, Keith's brother, the bartender, and others from that night, who all stated what happened leading up to the shooting, and that they saw Jordan with a gun, but his defense was everybody and everything they were saying was hearsay, and Miss K or Blue wasn't reliable witnesses because at first, allegedly Blue was only known as John Doe on the record, and stated he didn't know what happened. And on cross-examination of Miss K, Jordan's lawyer pointed out she had stabbed the person prior to trial. But with surveillance video, eyewitness statements, Jordan was found guilty of first-degree murder, reckless endangerment, attempted murder, and handgun violations, and sentenced to life plus 35 years in prison. Rest in peace to Keith. I send my prayers and condolences to his family. More of this story, it's crazy how two men that didn't even know each other crossed paths and ended with one being gone and one doing life. I understand respect as a man, but pride and ego got it to the point no one wants to take a minute and think, and any small disagreement ends in guns coming out. Keith tried to leave, but by that time, it was too late, because words exchange and pride gets hurt. Most people got to show they built like that, whether it's at their own demise or the demise of others. We got to be able to step back and know if we are in the wrong and say, you know what, you got that. That doesn't make you a swine or make you weak. But when we are taught any encounter with another black man should end in someone gone, we are doing that dirty work for them. But hey, that's the Baltimore way. Man, crazy story, you feel me? Rest in peace to Keith. I send my prayers and condolences to his family, like I said. And at the end of the day, you know, the case went cold for almost 2 years. But when that picture came out, people pointed out Jordan as the trigger man, you know. His lawyers were saying it's all hearsay. They were saying the witnesses weren't stable. But he ended up getting convicted anyway, man. But yeah, y'all already know, man, this is another episode of the Baltimore Way. Let me know what you think about this one in the comments. I appreciate you if you made it to the end. It's all love, fam. I'm out.
It's your girl, Mrs. Tony 2 times, and I'm back with another video. In this episode of the Baltimore Way, I'll be telling the story of Charisse Raggins, a beautiful young woman who vanished in Baltimore County more than 12 years ago. A lot of unanswered questions surround Charisse's case. Before we get into this video, please don't forget to subscribe if you're new to our channel. Go ahead and click that notification bell to get notified every time we upload. If you're rocking with the content, smash that like button. Feel free to share this video with everyone you know. Make sure you watch until the end to hear the full story. All right, let's jump right into it. Charisse Raggins graduated from Woodlawn High School, and she enjoyed reading and watching movies. Charisse and her mother were very close. Charisse's mom was a former Baltimore school teacher. Like many of us, Charisse faced struggles in her life, especially with the loss of her brother due to complications from lupus. He was only 23 years old. Charisse lived with her mother in the Gwen Oaks neighborhood of West Baltimore County. On Friday, February 19th, 2010, at approximately 4:30 p.m., 24-year-old Charisse Raggins left the home she shared with her mother on the 3600 block of North Rogers Avenue to go meet up with the man she had been dating, Travis Elby. Charisse and Travis had met while she worked as a sales clerk at a party supply store. They had been dating for about a year, according to her mother. As Charisse walked out the door, her mother told her to have a good time. The couple was reportedly on their way to Travis's mother's home in Catonsville. According to reports, Charisse's mother grew concerned when she had not heard from or seen her daughter for the entire weekend. It was not in Charisse's character to not speak with her mother on a daily basis, even if she was spending time with her significant other. According to documents, she also found it strange that Charisse's boyfriend Travis had not called her home yet, since Charisse had not come home when she was expected. Documents say that Charisse's mother said Travis would call constantly on a daily basis, obsessively. According to sources, Charisse's mother reported making several attempts to call Travis's cell phone and landline over the weekend, but to no avail. Finally, on Monday or Tuesday, February 22nd or 23rd of 2010, Charisse's mother spoke with Travis's mother and explained she had not seen Charisse since that Friday, February 19th. Travis's mother allegedly told Charisse's mom that she had seen Charisse and Travis leave her home in Catonsville on February 21st at 5 p.m. Sources say that Charisse's mother asked that Travis's mother have him call her. According to records, on February 24th, 2010, after no word from Travis or Charisse's mother filed a missing persons report at the Woodlawn police station. According to reports, the following day, Travis called Charisse's mother and claimed that he and Charisse left the home he shares with his mom on Sunday, February 21st, and went to a bus stop on Route 40 and Rolling Road, and that Charisse made a phone call and left the bus stop with a man named Marcus. According to reports, Charisse's mother did not know Marcus. According to records, almost a week later, a Baltimore County detective was assigned to investigate Charisse's mysterious disappearance. After speaking with Charisse's mother, the detective began their investigation by interviewing Charisse's boyfriend, Travis Elby. Travis gave detectives his version of events, but when investigators checked phone records, text messages, and video surveillance footage of where he claimed to be, none corroborated his story. According to records, Travis's statements were also reported to be inconsistent, and investigators alleged that he was obsessive when it came to Charisse. According to reports, on March 2nd, 2010, detectives arrived at Travis's mother's home in Catonsville. Travis's mom answered the door and invited the detectives inside. Travis Elby came into the room where they were. According to records, Travis told the detectives that he and Charisse had spent the weekend of February 19th to the 21st at his home. He said they left his house for Charisse's home at 5 p.m. on Sunday, the 21st. He said he and Charisse walked to the bus stop at Rolling Road and Route 40. He allegedly told investigators that on the way there, he and Charisse argued because Charisse was angry that he did not have a car. According to records, Travis would further go on to explain that once they got to the bus stop, Charisse went to a nearby payphone and called someone named Marcus. Travis Elby claimed that he tried to talk Charisse out of leaving with Marcus, but after about 20 to 25 minutes at approximately 5:30, Marcus arrived to pick up Charisse in a red Chevy Tahoe. Travis allegedly told detectives that after Charisse left, he did not know what to do and simply walked home. He also explained that he had seen the person named Marcus only once before that incident and that Marcus was approximately 30 years old. According to sources, the day after the initial interview Travis had with investigators, the detectives arranged to have Charisse's mother make a recorded phone call to Travis. During the call, Travis allegedly recounted the same story he told the detectives on March 2nd. In this version, however, Travis said that he did not walk home after Charisse left with Marcus, but decided instead to call his father from a payphone to ask for a ride. According to records, Travis said he used a payphone because his mobile phone was broken. During the phone call with Charisse's mom, Travis allegedly said that when Charisse got into the car with Marcus, he figured him and Charisse's relationship was over. He allegedly told Charisse's mom that Charisse's actions had broken his heart, and that was allegedly the reason why he had not followed his usual pattern of calling her home 3 or more times a day. He promised to call Charisse's mom if he heard anything. Records go on to say that on March 8, 2010, the detective on Charisse's disappearance supposedly called Travis at home, and the conversation was recorded. During that conversation, Travis agreed to go with the detective to the giant grocery store near the bus stop to show them where Charisse had used the payphone, where Marcus had picked her up, and to point out the possible route the Tahoe took when entering the parking lot. Records say later that day, while visiting the giant, Travis told the detectives that Marcus picked up Charisse a half hour later than the time he previously said. The detectives noted that Travis was adamant about his recollection of the details of the day he last saw Charisse. Sources say that after Travis went with investigators to the Giants, detectives took him to the police headquarters to continue the interview with him. According to records, Travis repeated his story to the detectives as he had in his 3 previous versions, but with some notable differences. In this interview, allegedly, Travis stated that Marcus had arrived to pick up Charisse at 6 or 6:15 p.m. Then he also stated that he had never seen Marcus before Marcus arrived to pick up Charisse and would not be able to identify Marcus if he saw Marcus on the street. But previously, he had told police he saw Marcus once before. According to sources, Travis allegedly also pointed out that during their relationship, if Charisse wanted to make him mad and jealous, Charisse would mention Marcus and the prior relationship she had with him. A couple of weeks later, according to records, the detectives interviewed Travis again. On this occasion, they asked him to view surveillance footage that they'd obtained from cameras mounted on the front of the grocery store. According to sources, the footage covered the area in front of the Giant, including the payphone where Travis claimed Charisse had called Marcus. According to investigators, the video they obtained from the store ran from approximately noon to 9 p.m. on February 21st, 2010. According to sources, Travis nor the detective was able to identify Travis himself, Charisse, or the Chevy Tahoe anywhere on the surveillance tapes. Detectives were also able to obtain phone records from payphones nearby where Travis said he had last seen Charisse. Although reports say there was a record of the call Travis had made to his father, there was no record of any call made by Charisse to Marcus on the payphone. In addition, sources say when the detective on Charisse's case spoke with Marcus, he said that he was at work on February 21st, 2010, and that Charisse didn't have his phone number and would not have recognized his truck. Marcus's alibi checked out. According to reports, as Travis was faced with even more questions about when he last saw Charisse, he allegedly changed his story once again. In this version, according to reports, he no longer claimed that Charisse called Marcus and left in a red Tahoe. Instead, he claimed that he and Charisse had taken a bus to Baltimore and Cary Streets to buy Mary Jane. According to sources, Travis said that he had not admitted to this previously out of fear of getting in trouble with police. But this time, Travis stated that the last place he saw Charisse was at the New York Fried Chicken outside the bus stop across from it. He then said that he took the bus back to the Giant on Route 40 and Rolling Road, where he called his father for a ride. After the interview, Travis Elby accompanied detectives again. this time going to Baltimore and Cary Streets and showing them the New York Fried Chicken restaurant and the location of his Mary Jane purchase. About a month later, detectives would interview Travis a final time on April 22, 2010, after he was arrested for an unrelated offense. The detective attempted to determine why Travis had allegedly lied to them initially. According to records, Travis simply said that he did not know why he'd lie and claimed that he did not do anything to Charisse. At that point, sadly, Charisse had still not been found. As the investigation continued, detectives used technology to gather evidence from Travis Elby's phone. But because Travis's phone was broken, investigators were unable to use cell tower or cell phone information to pinpoint his location on February 21st, 2010. The technology did, however, help to give a glimpse into Travis's and Charisse's tumultuous relationship. According to records, the detectives said they also obtained phone records from Travis's phone and both Charisse's home and cell phones. Records state that between January 1st and March 1st, 2010, the phones exchanged 946 calls, averaging about 16 per day. Of these phone calls, 604 were calls from Travis to Charisse, whereas 342 were from Charisse to Travis. Additionally, police were able to extract a file system from Travis's phone, according to reports. Records say law enforcement gave the file system to a digital forensic supervisor. The digital forensic supervisor used the file extraction program and ran a few keywords, including Charisse's name, to see if there was something they could find that might point the lead detective on Charisse's case in the right direction. The search would reveal the word KILL in a text from Travis's phone reading, "No, I'm ready to permanently get away from her. Nothing, I just want to KILL this B word." According to documents, the time frame from that particular message was determined to be anywhere between the early morning of February 10th, 2010 and the morning of February 11th, 2010. Although forensics were certain this message had been sent to Travis's phone, they were not able to determine who the text was sent to or the person's phone number. According to documents, forensic evidence revealed that there were 68 messages stored on Travis's phone from the period between January 22nd and February 17th, 2010. Of these, 4 messages were to Charisse and 6 were from her to Travis. The messages from Charisse to Travis included the following. One that was sent on January 22nd, 2010 at 4:26 p.m. that read, "I see your phone died, but you chose to ignore it up until it did." It goes on to say, "You really have shown me that you can't make me happy. You don't." The second message Charisse sent to Travis right after that said, "You don't care to. Tried making it work. Plan B, moving on. I really do love you, but I'm tired of the hurt and senseless frustration." Lastly, another message sent February 11th, 2010 said, "Know this, I did love you, but all we have is hate. You're no longer welcome in my life. Just walk away. Goodbye." According to sources, on February 17th, 2010, police were called to the home where Charisse lived after she and Travis got into a volatile argument over Marcus. According to reports, Marcus allegedly came over to visit Charisse at her home. As Marcus was leaving, Travis arrived and saw him walking out the door. Travis allegedly confronted Charisse about the situation and they ended up arguing. Charisse's mother was not home at the time of the disturbance. It's clear from this incident and the messages between Charisse and Travis that Charisse was ready to end their relationship. Weeks turned into months, months turned into years, and there had still been no sign of Charisse. She left everything behind except her purse and the winter coat she was wearing when she was last seen. There was no activity done in Charisse's name for 5 years, except where records showed a joint car payment was paid off. But then a break in Charisse's case would make headlines. While Charisse had still not been found, her boyfriend, Travis Elby, would be indicted on charges in connection to her disappearance. On September 7, 2016, a grand jury sitting in Baltimore County was presented with Charisse's case and indicted Travis for first-degree hit. Travis was arrested and held at Baltimore County Detention Center without bail. Charisse's mother told reporters that she pretty much knew Travis had something to do with Charisse's disappearance since he was the last person to see her, allegedly. At that point, she questioned if he would now tell the truth and tell what happened to Charisse's body. Law enforcement still asked the public for their help in finding Charisse's body. Travis Elby would waive his right to a jury trial and stood for a bench trial instead. 1 year later, in November 2017, Travis Elby was found guilty of second-degree hit by a Baltimore County judge after 3 days of testimony. Despite the fact that Charisse's body was not found, the judge discovered that there was ample circumstantial evidence that indicated Travis may have taken Charisse's life. Travis was scheduled to be sentenced in February of 2018. He faced up to 30 years in prison. Travis was ultimately sentenced to 25 years in prison and 5 years probation. Charisse's mother said that Travis's conviction was a shred of closure, and she was thankful to law enforcement for not giving up on Charisse's case. Travis would later appeal his conviction. However, he lost that appeal in 2019, and his conviction remains in place. Wow, fam, after 12 years, Charisse has yet to be found. My deepest and most heartfelt condolences to Charisse's mother and loved ones. There are still so many unanswered questions as to what happened to Charisse. If Travis is responsible, he's the only one that knows where he laid Charisse to rest. And I believe in his final attempt to maintain control, he will not reveal where Charisse is. He was clearly upset that Charisse was ready to move on. I believe his obsession and jealousy drove him to possibly do the unthinkable, especially after he saw Charisse spending time with another man. That really must have bothered him because, in my opinion, he tried to frame the other man by implying that Charisse left with him that day. I hope that Charisse's remains are found one day and her mother can get the closure she deserves. My thoughts and prayers are with her. Fam, I would love to hear your thoughts on Charisse's story. Feel free to leave them in the comments below. All right, fam, that's it for this episode of The Baltimore Way. Thank you all so much for watching. This is your girl, Mrs. Tony 2 Times, and I'm out.
YouTube fam, this your boy Tony 2 Times, and we back with another episode of The Baltimore Way, man. Before I start, be sure to tap that like button. Definitely watch this video to the end to hear the full story and all the details in the case. For all the day one fam, welcome back. Thanks for tuning back in. Y'all already know it's all love. If you're new to the channel and you feeling the content, feel free to subscribe. Definitely tap that notification bell so you can be notified every time we drop a new episode. Let's get right into the story. Driving. That seems like a harmless thing, right? Getting in your whip, going to work, or whatever you choose to do in your car that day. It's a blessing to be able to maneuver from point A to point B without depending on nobody or catching that Mark Thomas ante, what we used to call it, or the MTA for short. I remember copping my first whip when I came home from work release in 2007. I used to look out the window on Greenmount, daydreaming of riding in something new. But instead, just making $8 an hour at my job, at Kim Spec at the time, and Highland Time, when I finally was able to grab something, it was a white 1997 Chevy Lumina that I bought from an older white woman from Towson off Craigslist. But I was happy though. I didn't understand the dangers of the road or nothing at that time. Granted, after 4 months, I ended up crashing it on Pulaski Highway. But that's just a short little story. Nowadays, doing something as simple as driving in your car can be dangerous. Not because of accidents, but because of other people on the road. And cutting somebody off in traffic can end up fatal if words are exchanged and someone loses their temper and makes an emotional decision. You would think people would just let it go, especially a man beefing with a woman over a driving incident. But unfortunately, that's not the reality we live in. And on this episode of the Baltimore Way, we will be discussing the case of road rage in Dundalk, Baltimore County, that left a young lady gone and a man facing a life sentence. According to sources, back in 2019, 30-year-old Melissa Lynn West was an outgoing young lady with a loving and giving spirit. She enjoyed helping others. Her job as a massage therapist and being a caregiver for her elderly grandfather. Melissa had grew up in Dundalk and was well known in her community, being a graduate of Sparrows Point High School. The young lady seemed to have a pretty laid-back, comfortable life. Her job was located in Harford County, Bel Air, Maryland. But one day after leaving work, things would go terribly wrong. Just like any regular day, Melissa got off, got in her vehicle, and was heading home. As she entered Baltimore County and got closer to home, she would have a run-in with a man named Ricky Raheem Charles over some kind of traffic incident. It's not clear whose fault it was or exactly what took place between the two vehicles, but Ricky was in a blue SUV and Melissa in her car when a dispute happened between the two on Avondale Road. Not thinking anything of the situation, the young lady was still excited to be off from work, plus it was a Saturday evening, so she continued on her way home on Fairview Avenue. But little did she know, she was being followed. Once Melissa pulled up on her block, kids were playing, neighbors were outside enjoying the day, when allegedly Ricky pulled up right behind her and got all of his whip to confront the young lady. The two would go back and forth before shots went off and the vehicle quickly sped away. Neighbors in shock called Baltimore County Police to report they heard arguing and loud pops and thought someone had been shot. Officers responded to the scene to find a young lady laying in the street with multiple gunshot wounds, one to her back and one to her chest, also with some kind of liquid on the side of her face. She was quickly rushed to a local hospital where unfortunately she would not survive her injuries. The victim was later identified as 30-year-old Melissa Lynn West. As the investigation started, police looked for witnesses in the neighborhood and a motive. A neighbor who saw the situation unfold told police as Melissa pulled up to her home, a man in a blue Dodge SUV pulled up behind her, got out the car screaming. She said a few words back before the man shot her and allegedly spit on the woman after the fact. It was still no motives and no one recognized the shooter. A DNA sample will be taken from the saliva on Melissa's face. Also, Baltimore County Police used surveillance footage tracking Melissa's way home from work and was able to find out an incident took place not far from her house on Avondale. A witness told police he believed it was something that happened at Melissa's job or a road rage situation, and the man followed her. The saliva was ran through a database, and police got a hit for 30-year-old Ricky Raheem Charles. but no whereabouts on the man at the time. As the case hit the news, an address would pop up for Ricky. A search warrant was issued for his home, where allegedly 2 blicks was recovered, but no blue SUV or no Ricky. Police quickly got another lead. He was living with his girlfriend at the time in Bel Air, Maryland. They went to the home where they found Ricky and took him in for questioning. He admitted being in the area at the time of the shooting, and witnesses that knew Ricky personally alleged he told them he shot and spit on Melissa as well. With this information, Ricky was taken into custody and charged with first-degree premeditated murder and handgun violations. He was held without bail. As the case made the trial, prosecutors painted a case of clear road rage and claimed Ricky was a hothead. With DNA evidence, witness testimonies, plus Ricky himself admitting to being in the exact area the day and time of the shooting, he was eventually found guilty on Thursday, September 22nd of this year. He is awaiting sentencing scheduled for January 2023, where he is facing life in prison. Rest in peace to Melissa. I send my deepest prayers and condolences to her family. In situations like this, I think to myself how loose we are with pulling the trigger nowadays. As a person that has worked years to learn how to deal with my emotions and control my anger, I know it's a struggle, but I'm sure whatever words the young lady said wasn't that serious to the point you thought about it, doubled back, followed her home, and shot. More of this story, don't let a bad moment turn into a bad day turn into a bad week, to the point you throw your life away behind a split-second decision you have to live with by sitting in a cell for the rest of your life. But hey, that's the Baltimore way. Man, it's a crazy story. Rest in peace to Melissa. Like I said, I send my prayers and condolences to her family. You know, the crazy thing about it, you feel me, I don't understand why bro got that mad. You know, I get it. People be in their feelings. People got emotions. People got anger problems. But for Ricky to allegedly get out the situation, be able to go on his way and let it go, to double back, follow the girl, and allegedly hit her. I want to know what words she said or what they said to each other to make him get in that mindset. You know, as men, I understand sometimes, man, we go through a lot and pressure bust pipes. But to the point, man, we got to learn how to control our emotions and definitely control our anger. Especially out here in these streets nowadays, we supposed to be leaders, supposed to be setting an example for the youth. And I feel like that's why everything all over the place right now. Because everybody on their own type time, everybody got an ego, everybody got a chip on their shoulder, man. But yeah, another crazy story, man. Leave it in the comments. Y'all already know. I appreciate you if you made it to the end of the video. This your boy Tony 2 times. It's all love, fam. I'm out. What's going on, YouTube, fam? This your boy Tony 2 times, and we back with another episode of the Baltimore Way, man. Before I start, be sure to tap that like button. Definitely watch this video to the end and hear the full story and all the details in the case. For all the day one fam, y'all already know it's all love. Thanks for tuning back into another episode. If you're new to the channel and you feeling the content, feel free to subscribe. Definitely hit that notification bell so you can be notified every time we drop a new video. Let's get right into the story. Walking away from a situation, does that make you a sucker? For some reason in our culture, that's not the tough thing to do, or not considered being real. To either live to see another day or make it home to your family without catching a charge. Mindset is everything. In certain situations, knowing when to hold and when to fold. Quick story. I remember being on parole and probation, backing up 15 years if I got in any trouble. And the first thing I did was buy a .38 revolver when I came home on the box from my neighbor. Being stupid. I wasn't beefing with nobody or nothing. But in my mind, I felt as though I wasn't being prepared if I didn't have a burner. But prepared for what? Wasn't nothing going on. And unfortunately, that's the mindset of most of us coming up in certain environments. Eventually, I came to my senses when my mans told me I was geeking. And I sold it to my other homie who had real issues going on. That kind of mentality is deadly and a one-way ticket to either prison or the grave. Fortunately, I was able to understand Being tough or having a blick doesn't make you a man. But some people never had a chance to figure that out and act off emotions or impulse, letting a split-second decision change their life or end up with them taking a life. And on this episode of the Baltimore Way, we will be discussing a case involving two men who didn't even know each other and an encounter that turned into a fatal situation, with one of them getting life in prison. According to sources, back in 2020, a 22-year-old man named Ronald Haskins was on Brown Highway, not too far from O'Donnell Heights in southeast Baltimore, when in broad daylight, shots went off, and the man was hit multiple times. People in the neighborhood called BPD, who responded to the 1400 block of Brown Highway on January 11th around 2:30 p.m. to find a man suffering from gunshot wounds. He was quickly rushed to a local hospital where unfortunately he did not survive. The victim was later identified as 38-year-old Richard Pearson. As an investigation started, some people in the neighborhood said it was some kind of argument or altercation that led to the shooting, but no one knew what happened exactly. Police realized it was city watch surveillance cameras in the area. They looked at it and it showed a man wearing a dark green coat in the footage. And after watching, BPD felt as though that was their shooter. That weekend in the city, it was hectic, with 12 people being shot, with 5 of the shootings being fatal. More information would come out as the community talked to police and gave them a lead on a man named Ronald Haskins. BPD would put out a warrant for the man and also searched his Middle River home, where allegedly they found the blick and articles of clothing that seemed to match the suspect's clothing in a surveillance video. Ronald was taken into custody, but quickly told police he doesn't know anything about a hit and didn't know who Richard was. When asked why people were saying his name, the man responded he did not know. At this point, even though it wasn't a lot of evidence, Ronald was charged with murder and handgun violations and transported to central bookings. It was only a few days after the hit on Richard. While in custody, BPD were looking for more evidence connecting Ronald to the situation, when allegedly they received 2 jail call recordings where Ronald was talking to his sister, who was locked up at the time, before he was charged. He allegedly told her what led up to the situation, stating he had a dispute with some people in the area off Boston Street, and it got heated to the point he pulled out a blick. He then told his sister a man he never seen before, referring to Richard, walked up to him and tried to slap the gun out his hand. That's when he shot the man multiple times. Ronald allegedly stated Richard got what he deserved for being out there during the altercation. He also stated someone was paying him to stay in the house, but he felt frustrated and trapped he couldn't come outside. His sister would intervene and tell Ronald to watch how he was talking on a recorded jail call, in which later it would be determined she was absolutely right. As the case started making it to trial, multiple BPD officers took the stand, claiming that even though Ronald declined to ask certain questions during his interview, it was evidence placing him at the scene at the time of the hit, including the green coat from the City Watch footage, in which Ronald allegedly had on the same coat during his interview. Multiple witnesses from the neighborhood, the jail calls to his sister, but the most hurtful thing the state had was multiple family members testified against Ronald, alleging he was the shooter because he told them what happened. His lawyers will argue all the evidence against his client was circumstantial, and Ronald's own family was trying to set him up to be convicted because they testified against him. But the state wasn't hearing none of that. In the last effort attempt, his attorney argued it was another suspect BPD never even talked to, and that no matter who did the shooting, the footage showed it was spurred at a moment and not premeditated. But prosecutors were convinced the jury, who eventually found Ronald guilty of first-degree murder and handgun charges. He was sentenced to life plus 15 years in prison. Rest in peace to Richard. I send my deepest prayers and condolences to the family. I don't know what the initial dispute was about or what got it to the point Ronald allegedly upped the blick. That just goes to show you how fast things can go left in certain situations. More of this story, you gotta check yourself in these streets. If you have a chance to walk away with your life or as a free man, do that. It doesn't make you a sucker to me. That's what makes you a man, being solid enough to stay out the way. It's either that or let COs control you for the rest of your life. Your time, telling you when to eat, telling you when to sleep, even shower. I guess to some people, that's worth it. But hey, that's the Baltimore way. Man, crazy story, you feel me? Rest in peace to Richard. Like I said, I send my prayers and condolences to his family. I mean, according to the case, they saying the two ain't even know each other. I don't know if he did do that. I don't know what made Richard walk up to him and try to smack the blick out his hand. I mean, of course, everybody know that ain't the right thing to do. Somebody got to burn out. You try to get away from the situation. You know what I mean? If you can't de-escalate the situation, just bop off, go about your business. You feel me? Especially if it ain't your beef. But in this case, I guess that Ronald felt disrespected by some people in the area. It got heated to the point he felt like, I guess his life was in danger. He upped the blick. And unfortunately, him and Richard had that run-in and it turned fatal, man. But y'all already know, man. Leave it in the comments. I appreciate you if you made it to the end. This is another episode of the Baltimore Way. It's your boy Tony 2 times. Love, fam. I'm out. What's going on, YouTube, fam? This your boy Tony 2 times, and we back with another episode of the Baltimore Way, man. Before I start, be sure to tap that like button. Definitely watch this video to the end and hear the full story and all the details in the case. For all the day one, fam, welcome back. Thanks for tuning back into another episode. If you're new to the channel and you feeling the content, feel free to subscribe. Definitely hit that notification bell so you can be notified every time we drop a new video. Let's get right into the story. Survival. Some people will go to extreme measures to make sure they can get by every day. Whether it's stealing, robbing, sometimes even killing. The sad part of trying to maintain in these streets is most of the people we are pulling moves on are in the same situations as us, since most crimes happen in our own communities. We don't go across town looking for the rich to take from. Instead, it's getting so bad, some are even robbing homeless people. And I know personally, from doing certain things in the past myself, it's a mindset of you got more than me at that time, so I'm taking that. And it's really unfortunate that it's like that. In some cases, mental health might also play a part. People will say, oh, just go get a job. You don't have to steal or rob. But for some, it's not that easy. We are creatures of habit. And once we find a way, right or wrong, to survive, most people just go with that move. And if you've been through so much in your life that your mind is not right, you stop caring about others. It really becomes Doug eats Doug. Trust me, I've been there. But I also realized I had to heal. Unfortunately, some don't get that chance before they do something that could mess up their whole life. And on this episode of the Baltimore Way, we will be discussing a case involving a young man that made a decision to hit a lick that landed him the title Public Enemy #1. According to sources, back in 2016, a 19-year-old man named Christopher Strahan had ran into some problems. That summer, the young man was allegedly locked up for pulling out a knife on a lady on a bus stop on Eastern Avenue. The charges would eventually be dropped though, because she didn't come to court. That same year, Christopher was getting a bad name in the area of Southeast Baltimore for stealing out the stores and petty robberies. Everything would go left when one day he encountered a 73-year-old man named Andrus Hovath, who was originally from Hungary and dealt with being homeless on the streets for years. Andrus went by the name Andy and walked with a cane and was blind in one eye. The man came to America with his wife and worked as a cabinet maker. But after being married for 23 years, Andy's wife unfortunately passed away, leaving him trying to shake back and drinking heavy and homeless. but everyone that knew the man claimed he was a good man. On December 2nd, 2016, on a busy intersection of Pulaski Highway and Highland Avenue, Andy and Christopher would have a fatal run-in. Allegedly, the 73-year-old was ordering some food from Popeyes in Highlandtown when he pulled out a good bit of cash to pay for his order. Once Andy left the store, he didn't know he was being followed. A man would run up on him and demand money before pushing the elderly man to the ground and stabbing him multiple times when he decided to fight back. Witnesses to the incident quickly called BPD as the man ran off. As police got to the scene, they saw a man laying on the ground, bleeding heavily. He was rushed to a local hospital, where unfortunately he would not survive the attack. With no motive or suspect, an investigation was started, and it was quickly realized the situation was caught on surveillance. As the tape was reviewed, police zoomed in on the suspect and released footage to the news. The man looked like he had a tattoo under his eye, and that became a focus. Multiple calls came in from people claiming the young man in the video was Christopher Strahan. One person said they remembered him from a previous situation from that summer of him allegedly putting a knife to a disabled woman's neck who was in a wheelchair on Eastern Avenue because she refused to get him a cigarette. But that was the case that was dropped against him. Days would go by with BPD looking for the young man, even labeling him public enemy number 1. A few days later, police got a tip that Christopher was seen in the 3100 block of Orleans Street, not too far from the crime scene. Allegedly, the owners of the Eagle Mart gas station caught someone stealing inside the store. They took a picture and locked the man inside. They immediately recognized it was Christopher, who was labeled as public enemy number 1, and they called police. Christopher quickly tried to get out the situation and got out the store, while the owners talked to police, telling them to hurry up. The young man was there right now. He would eventually get out, but people in the community would join in and grab the young man and hold him down. He zapped out and allegedly tried to pull out a knife. As BPD arrived to the store, they identified Christopher, even though allegedly he tried to remove the tattoo of his initials under his eye and also another tattoo he had of a heart, but it was still visible. He was taken into custody and charged with first and second degree murder, assault, armed robbery, and theft under $100. After it was later determined the money he got from Andy was only a few dollars. As the case made it to the news, the alleged public enemy number 1 was caught. The community spoke out on Andy's behalf, stating he helped everyone, even people who wasn't homeless. If he had it, he would have probably gave it to the young man. Christopher was being held without bail, but as lawyers talked to the state, questions started coming up about his mental health. Court dates kept getting pushed back, and Christopher's competency levels was examined. He was deemed incompetent to stand trial in 2020. The young man would eventually be sent to a psychiatric hospital, with judges alleging his behavior in court was agitated and erratic, and he even tried to fire his lawyer on the spot. But eventually, Christopher was found stable enough to go to court, but soon after, he was sent back to jail to await trial. The state's prosecutor got super sick, and the trial was pushed back for another 6 months, making the young man even more frustrated. It's been 6 years, and Christopher's case still hasn't made it to trial. It's set for January 17th, 2023. He is innocent until proven otherwise. Rest in peace to Andy. I send my prayers and condolences to his remaining family. It's crazy a man survived 73 years and even being homeless in the streets of Baltimore for years just to lose his life over a couple dollars. Christopher already had some stains on his record for previous situations in the area, but it's clear Shorty wasn't in his right state of mind. More of this story, we all gotta survive, but that doesn't mean feed off others around you that's suffering and trying to make it day by day just like you. I actually feel like Christopher does have some issues deep inside, and unfortunately, some of us never get to heal. And when you are taught it's only the strong survive your whole life, it turns you into a predator, even preying on the weak. But why? When most of the time, most of us in the same boat, trying to survive day by day. But at what cost? Your freedom? But hey, that's the Baltimore way. Man, it's a crazy story, you feel me? Rest in peace to that gentleman. Rest in peace to Andy. You know, he was 73 years old. Old man, you know what I mean? I read an article, somebody said he was a good dude. They knew him from a homeless shelter. You know, they just wanted to clear it up that he had a name. Because at first, ain't nobody know his name. The news ain't know his name. Ain't nobody know his family or nothing like that. But man, in Christopher's situation, I do feel like Shorty might got some issues. I do feel like he was just out here trying to survive. And sometimes that be our downfall. It's crazy because that Popeyes they was at, I used to go there all the time on my lunch break. I used to work right around the corner. And I remember a lot of crazy little things used to happen right there in Highland Town. But yeah, man, y'all already know, man. This is another episode of the Baltimore Way. I appreciate you if you made it to the end. Leave it in the comments, fam. This your boy Tony 2 times. It's all love. I'm out.